Next week in 9 days, AMC will have their shareholder meeting on July 29th. GameStop meeting was already held and was more of a testing ground for the AMC crowd to get an observation, see what the hell's going on. Because with millions of shares sold short, and the naked shorting, synthetic shares, but also the failure to deliver. That's a key here, all right? The effect of this meeting has only begun to come out. I mean, a lot of people are expecting things to skyrocket a moon, but it didn't happen. So in this video, I'm going to share something from an AMA from the Superstonk YouTube channel. I encourage you to go watch, listen to it, and learn about this matter of voting rights, proxy voting, and the whole experience that GameStop, the crowd, and the shareholders, and the people involved in this went through. If you're stuck on the AMC section of this, I want you to go into a deep dive into this and really get an idea of what to expect and what also just to understand about this, all right? Because the important thing is more for GameStop to understand about what the future holds, because what was relayed to them after the meeting. And so when everybody gets all hyped up about the AMC shareholder meeting, like they got all hyped up for the GameStop meeting, expect to have this huge announcement of, oh yes, we have this many shares here and we have this many shares here. And what's the difference? Well, they're not going to relay that exactly, right? Because GME and AMC did not moon after this. Everybody was waiting for the big skyrocket to happen and know the date of all this. But we learned was, cryptic messages from Ryan Cohen and basically everything else that happened, all right? Because it's a very professional manner, and what is held at these meetings is voted upon, and they keep it very simple and very straight. They don't want any monkey business going on, all right? And I'll go into this in some other videos about the NFTs, which I think is a very, very valuable and important thing, because a lot of people are talking about, oh, the demise of NFT. No, this related to GameStop is a new direction, and it's something I think AMC could get into with some area and aspect of it. But anyway, that's not for me, just some hypothetical hypothesis. And also another video I'm talking about is the AMC and GME correlation with other stocks. Some of the research that I've done, I did it with 5 stocks, but other people have done it with 20, and hopefully somebody else is doing it with about 100. Now, this is just mostly data and math. It's not the most fun, but I'll try and break it down into ape language to get the idea of this passed. And also, of course, next week, the DTC rules kick into effect on Monday, and we'll wait and see, what's going to happen at the end of June, early July, if this releases the Kraken. We've all been waiting for the dates to see when things kick off, but, we're all holding our moon tickets and going to see what happens. So we'll get into this next part, this next section about proxy voting and more. And I want you to introduce Mr. Hagberg. He is the gentleman, the old gentleman, and he has more 45-year experience in the securities industry. He's held a senior level position, operations, marketing, general management assignments, and he's also served on the boards of 2 highly successful financial service companies. He's been in this business his whole life, all right? He's considered to be one of the nation's leading experts on individual stock ownership programs. Very important, very knowledgeable. He's helped over 100 companies, all right, from all around the world, Eastern European to several Asian countries, to launch and improve remarket programs aimed at customers, employees, and existing stockholders and other affinity groups. He is basically considered to be the leading expert on proxy voting process. Key here, all right? And he served as an independent inspector of the election, both in contested and uncontested situations at over 300 annual and special meeting shareholders. So I want you to get into this, and I'm only going to show sections of this because I want you to understand. Go to the Superstonk website on YouTube, get in there, but also after you listen to Carl Hagberg's, I want you to go to Dr. T, Susan Trimbath, listen to her AMA about naked, short, and greedy, because that has everything important for naked shorts, but also failure to delivers, and why failure to delivers is more important than naked shorting. All right, there's a big correlation there. All right, so anyway, I'll get into this. So enjoy the video, and yeah, go visit Superstonk.
How do we solve this? Okay, we need to figure out how to solve this, and the first thing is there needs to be a pre-reconciliation. People should never get a proxy unless they really are holders in due course, and people who are not should not be getting proxy materials. But it needs to be a valid, a legitimate reconciliation, and that's very hard to do. When you sell the same banana 158 million times and you only have 72 million bananas, reconciling this is not an easy thing to do. Okay, so this
bananas.
doesn't really solve anything. It's sort of after the fact. You clean up. You throw something over it. So that's number one. The next thing, though, that can and should be done is to force lenders to recall their shares before the annual meeting record date comes along. And so that's where the mutual funds and the big pension funds come in. And they really do have a fiduciary duty to recall their shares so they can vote them themselves. There's no two ways about that, okay? So that would help big time. Although, again, the numbers are so big, it's like, I got to start a year in advance, maybe, to get my shares back. The other thing is, look, I feel that brokers, they should be prohibited from lending shares that belong to individual investors without better disclosure, okay? And so if full disclosure would be, oh, I can lend your shares and I can make a lot of money doing it anytime I want. And by the way, I owe you nothing and you can't protest. This is not ethical. It's not correct, okay? So that needs to be done. People need to be told, no, you cannot be doing this. Maybe if somebody is stupid enough to say, yes, okay, I'll let you do this, take my shares, take my votes, take the money, to give me none, well, God bless. But if you made decent disclosure, I don't think this will be lasting very long, okay? Now, let's just see. And then, as I said, both the lender and the buyer end up having voting rights. And so there's a couple problems. One is no one knows this most of the time unless their custodial bank or broker votes over 100%. And most of the time, no one ever goes over 100. In a good year, 70% of all the shares, maybe 80% will be voted. 20% will never get voted. So unless you go over that 100% number at a particular bank or a particular broker, no one is ever the wiser, okay, that more of these votes have been cast. There was a famous incident. It was one of the most contested mergers of all times. It was the HP Compaq thing. And institutional investors who were dead set against this merger, they thought it was a horrible deal, which I believe it turned out to be, discovered that because they had lent their shares, their vote didn't count. And in fact, the people who borrowed the shares, their vote carried the day. And so it wasn't economically right, it wasn't morally right, but that's what was happening, okay? And then, so sometimes, of course, they have to somehow come up with the right numbers. And so they go back to the banks and brokers and say, well, look, you voted a million and you only have 500,000. Please set us straight. And so this reconciliation takes place in a dark room somewhere. No one ever explains how they did it. They're not obliged to explain, but somehow in the end, it comes right. Comes the last part, and this should be close to the hearts of GameStop owners, okay? And that is that institutional investors, by the way, big pension funds and big mutual funds, they make monster money. They make enormous amounts of money by lending shares, okay, to people who want to sell short, okay? And so if I'm a broker, for example, and let's say I have a brokerage account, and if I have signed a margin agreement, if I've signed to allow to have a margin account, okay, they can lend my shares to anybody, make money, okay. Unbeknownst to me, I lose my vote because the disclosure is really very, very poor, okay? And I hear that some GameStop owners are finding, where's my proxy? Where's my annual report? No, they got canceled out because they happen to have a margin account, regardless of the fact that A, they may not have had a penny in margin loans, okay? but they signed an agreement that allows the bank or broker to vote to lend their shares, okay? And they don't get a penny of compensation. So the agent is making millions and millions of dollars. Individual investors who are in the dark about this, they're not even discovering. Most times you don't know you didn't get a vote. Now with GameStop, because the imbalance was so big, people are asking, "Where's my vote?" And they're told, "Well, you have a margin account. You don't get a vote, or no, you missed the day. You missed the magic day. You don't get a vote." And so Alison Heron-Lee, okay. She was the interim, and she's still an SEC commissioner. And while Gensler hadn't been confirmed yet, she instructed the staff to look into mutual fund voting, because mutual funds are often not voting, or they're giving the vote to somebody who's voting against their very own positions, the positions that they uphold. And mutual funds, many of them are deciding that shareholder votes do indeed have value, and that whether they're economic proposals or social proposals or environmental proposals, your vote on these proposals has value of its own. And companies who are good citizens create more value than companies who are scoundrels, you know? So Alison Heron-Lee, God bless her, she said, we need greater disclosure as to what mutual funds are doing with their shares. Are they lending them to third parties who are voting, in many cases, against the positions that they uphold? By the way, these mutual funds are fiduciaries, as I was back in my days as a banker. And our duty is to our client, to the shareholder, okay, and not to the almighty dollar. So those are the issues that I think are in front of us now, and I'm really pleased to see so many GameStop owners stepping up and asking hard questions. And I'm sure that when they're, based on the numbers that I've been hearing, and actually they're published, it's not a mystery, that come their meeting, there's going to be significant overvoting unless people spend hours and hours ahead of time in their dark offices trying to reconcile this before the day of the meeting.
Okay, Carl Hagberg, he did hit some key points about the voting, his experience, and the voting process that he knows about and what we are experiencing right now in relation to GameStop, but also with the upcoming AMC. So I'm gonna end this section here and continue with part 2. Okay, and going on with this next section is going to be talking about short selling. All right, now Carl Hagberg, his whole AMA is on the Superstonk YouTube channel. It's about an hour and a half. It goes into all of this and it's in one big section. But it's best to see it in, I think, sections. I've broken it down because I wanted to get this to the people and to spread the word out more, and especially get each section divided up more so I can go back. For me, it's easier to get back into each section to talk about voting, short selling, but also what the importance of retail sellers going on here. All right, so the next section focuses on short squeezes. All right, so that's coming up. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. All right, well,